All right, how's everybody doing today? Hotep, hey, this is Michael Imhotep, founder of the African History Network, host of the African History Network show. It is Wednesday, June 23rd, 2021, and we are live. Hope everybody's doing well today. So I'm a talk show host, researcher, lecturer, writer, and historian, for those that don't know. And I wanted to come on and talk with you all for a few minutes to let you know about a new online course that I teach that is starting up on Sunday, July 4th, the 4th of July, Sunday, July 4th, 2021, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We have a new section of Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Maafa, understanding the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school. We have a new course starting up. This is an online course that I teach. I've been teaching it since 2017, actually. And a lot of people have been asking you. You hear about it on my radio show. I'm on 6 days a week, the African History Network show, and a lot of people have been asking and saying, "Hey, let me know when a new class is starting up because I want to take it." Well, we have one starting up Sunday, July 4th, 2021. It's going to be 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Maafa, understanding the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school. So I'm going to do a brief overview of what we deal with in the course. This is a 10-week online course. We deal with thousands of years of history, and we deal with what led up to the transatlantic slave trade taking place as well. Okay. So when we deal with the transatlantic slave trade, we can't start in 1619 in Virginia, okay, with the 28 odd Africans on the White Lion pirate ship. We can't start in 1441 with the Portuguese going into Mauritania. We have to deal with thousands of years of history and ancient Africa, Nile Valley region of Africa, and what leads up to the transatlantic slave trade taking place, okay, to better understand this. And we have to also deal with the 800-year occupation of Europe by the Africans known as the Moors, and what the Moors take into Europe. They take the teachings from ancient Africa, especially ancient Egypt, ancient Kemet, and they take this into Europe, and this is going to bring Europe out of the Dark Ages. All right. So it's a 10-week online course that I teach, and we do the classes live. And all the sessions are recorded, so you can go back and watch it over and over again. All right. And I do a PowerPoint presentation. So we're going to go through and do an overview of it and show you some of the content in the online course. And we also have guest speakers periodically throughout the class as well. Dr. David Imhotep, who wrote the book, The First Americans Were Africans, Documented Evidence. We have him speak to the class. And I have a Saturday class that's wrapping up. We have like 3 more sessions in the Saturday class. So he spoke to my Saturday class. He wrote this book here, and this is one of the sources that I use in the course. The First Americans Were Africans, Documented Evidence by Dr. David Imhotep. So we deal with the African presence in the Americas dating back at least 56,000 years ago in South America, and at least 51,700 years ago in the land we call the United States of America. But he just spoke to my class on June 12th. My Saturday class is wrapping up. And he just spoke to the class June 12th. He talked about new archaeological evidence that shows an African presence in Central America, in Mexico, about 250,000 years ago. So we're going to have him speak to the class again. All right. I want to go to let me pull up the PowerPoint presentation. How's everybody doing? Share this broadcast on your social media platforms. Invite your friends to tune in also. So this is a 10-week online course. It's on sale, $80, regularly $130. As soon as you register, you can start watching bonus content. Okay, we're going to post a link here. And what I'm going to do is, since we have a course that's wrapping up, we're going to enroll you in the new course that starts Sunday, July 4th, but also will enroll you in the class that's wrapping up that's on Saturdays, 12 noon. So you'll be able to join us for 3 more sessions of the Saturday class. All those sessions are archived also, and you'll be enrolled for the new class as well. Okay, so this is an overview of ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Maafa, understanding the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school. And this started out as a 4.5-hour lecture I did January 24th, 2014. This is how this online course started. It started out as a 4.5-hour lecture, which is about 7 years of research. Then it evolved into this online course. All right. And I'm a radio talk show host in Detroit. I'm on Monday through Friday, 11 p.m. to 12 midnight Eastern Standard Time. On 9:10 a.m. the Superstation WFDF, and Sundays 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We broadcast here on our Facebook fan page, The African History Network, and my YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep, when I do the radio show live. So you can tune in 6 days a week. You can also download the iHeartRadio app. And you can listen to the radio station live and listen to my show live through the iHeartRadio app. Okay. All right. So this is the flyer, and you also see it at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, for the online course also. And when you go to our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, just click on register here right on the home page, and it has the information. It'll register you for the course. So whenever I speak, I know I may say some things that are outside the circumference of some people's awareness. And there's going to be some things probably here in this preview that I say that may be outside of the circumference of your own awareness. It does not mean that it's not true. It just means you have to do some research to understand what I'm talking about. So I learned this from one of my teachers, Dr. Ray Hagins. Usually have people put their fingers together to form a circle. And I usually say something like this: the space inside this circle represents my realm of knowledge. Everything that I think I know about whatever I think I know is represented within the circumference of this circle. I must keep in mind that there's still things to know that exist outside the circumference of my own awareness. Okay. So just because you know everything that you know about what you know does not mean you know everything there is to know about what you know. Okay. There's still things that exist outside the circumference of your own awareness. Okay. So we have to keep that in mind. All right. Okay. Now, if we look at this here, let's continue. So a lot of people, one of the people we deal with in the online course, we talk about Imhotep, and Imhotep ties into history as well. So a lot of people ask how you pronounce your last name. It's Imhotep. Imhotep means he who comes in peace in the ancient Middle Netter language. Okay. Imhotep was also a living person. He was one of the greatest people who ever lived in human history. Middle Netter is the ancient language of the ancient Kemet II, or the ancient Kemites, or ancient Egyptians. And Imhotep was a high priest. He was a physician, architect, mathematician, designer of the step pyramid at Saqqara for Nasubiti Zoser, or Pharaoh Zoser, because Nasubiti would be the correct term for the pharaohs. And this was in the third dynasty. Designer of the step pyramid at Saqqara in the third dynasty for Nasubiti Zoser. He was also known as the world's first multi-genius. Okay. You see him living around 2780 BC to 3000 BC, somewhere between there, depending upon which timeline of history that you use. The dates may be 200 or 300 years off. Okay, something like that. But you'll see him living anywhere from 2780 BC to 3000 BC, because we know at least 130,000 years of our history has been stolen. I go with the oldest dates I can find. Okay. Now, also, I encourage people to check out this book here by Dr. Molefi Keti Asante. All right. This is the Egyptian philosophers. The Egyptian philosophers. The Egyptian philosophers, ancient African voices from Imhotep to Akhenaten. And this deals with ancient African philosophers. Ptahhotep, Imhotep, Kunanup. He goes through and lists a number of ancient African philosophers before Aristotle, Socrates, Plato, Kagimni, Sanchi. So he has a number of them. Okay. This is in ancient times. So check this out from Dr. Molefi Keti Asante. the Egyptian philosophers, ancient African voices from Imhotep to Akhenaten. All right, let's continue here. How's everybody doing? Share this broadcast on your social media platforms. Invite your friends to tune in as well. We posted the link here. You can go ahead and register for the online course. As soon as you register, you start watching the bonus content. You can watch the class that I do currently on Saturdays that's wrapping up. We have like 3 weeks left. All that content is archived. You can start watching that, and you'll be registered for class number 1 that starts Sunday, July 4th, 2021, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for the 10-week online course. So this is Imhotep. These are famous statues of Imhotep. Okay. Famous depictions of him. This is Imhotep, and this is not Imhotep. In the 2001 movie, The Mummy Returns, the villain's name was Imhotep, or one of the villain's names was Imhotep. Consequently, many of our children think that one of our greatest ancestors was evil and not of African descent. So they have this Arab Eurasian looking depiction of Imhotep, played by actor Arnold Vosloo. Okay. He was in the movie, he's a high priest named Imhotep in the movie. So, we have to be very cognizant and protective of the media that our children consume. Okay. Because this is one of the main ways that our children are attacked. They're attacked through the media. And this is programming. All right. Okay. So right now, if you watch my show, you hear me talking about the attacks on critical race theory, the attacks on the 1619 Project. All this is taking place. Backlash from Juneteenth, attacks on Juneteenth from the right wing. All what we're going to see, all this is dealing with history. And this all ties into what's taking place right now. Almost 400 voter suppression bills in 48 state legislatures. We just saw the Republicans in the Senate on Tuesday, June 22nd, blocking the procedure to have a debate on the voting rights on the For the People Act, the new voting rights bill, for the People Act. We see all these things taking place. They all tie into history. Okay. And we saw a lot of that also with the 100th commemoration of the Tulsa Race Massacre, June 1st, 1921. And then we saw it June 1st, 2021. All this ties into history as well. Okay. So these are many of the things that we deal with in the class, and we deal with how history and politics and laws intersect, how they collide. This is why we deal with a chronology of history. We're going to deal with tens of thousands of years of history and bring all this up to the transatlantic slave trade and go through the transatlantic slave trade up to the basically up to the Civil War. Okay. All right. Now I want to go through and just show you a few recent articles, and we see how all this collides, and this attack collides from Republicans, from the right, and they're trying to shut down discussions of critical race theory, shut down. And most of them can't tell you what critical race theory is, but they're trying to shut down discussions when it comes to systemic racism, teaching the history of slavery, etc. All right. And if you watch my show 6 days a week, we go through and break all this stuff down. Okay. So if we look at this here, now this article is from USA Today. Mock slave auctions, racist lessons, how U.S. history class often traumatizes and dehumanizes Black students. Okay. Mock slave auctions, racist lessons, how U.S. history class often traumatizes, dehumanizes Black students. And every February we see these slave lessons gone wrong. And even throughout the year, we hear about these lessons that are insensitive to African Americans. Slave reenactments and things like this in class, slave like board games, etc. Okay. And all this ties into history. These are things we also have to protect our children from. Now, one of the things that I use in one of the things I teach from, we use this in the class, and you hear me talk about this on my show, is this study here from the Southern Poverty Law Center, Teaching Hard History American Slavery. And this is a 52-page study that breaks down how the history of slavery is being incorrectly taught in schools all across the country, and how to more correctly teach this history. Okay. So you can download that from the Southern Poverty Law Center, splcenter.org. And it's called Teaching Hard History, American Slavery. We'll post the link here for you as well. And you can download, it's free to download. Every school district in the country should be using this, because if they did this, and then it also lays out numerous strategies and different ways to more correctly teach the history of slavery also. Okay. If school districts use this, it'll make a big difference. We'll talk about this more in just a minute here. Now, this is another article here. This is from February 10th, 2021. Republican state lawmakers want to punish schools that teach the 1619 Project. Republican state lawmakers want to punish schools that teach the 1619 Project. And what we've seen is that because of the executive order that Donald Trump did in September 2020, banning critical race theory and different types of diversity training, things like this. This is where the attack on critical race theory from Republicans really started, going back to September 2020. Critical race theory is a 40-year-old theory. It's a 40-year-old ideology that is taught not in K through 12, but is taught in graduate schools, basically graduate schools in college and law schools. It's a legal analysis. It's not taught in K through 12. So, but you hear this hysteria coming from Republicans, and you have about 20 different states that have passed some type of law banning critical race theory. And all they're trying to do is galvanize support amongst their followers, galvanize support amongst Republicans, because they're not passing or advocating from bills in the House of Representatives or the U.S. Senate that are in general beneficial to everyday Americans. So they're fighting these culture wars, fighting these culture wars, trying to galvanize support and win back the House of Representatives and the U.S. Senate in the 2022 midterm elections. Now, we know we just celebrated Juneteenth, and Juneteenth is a federal holiday now. It passed the House of Representatives and it passed the Senate because there was no opposition to it in the Senate. So it just passed. They didn't take a formal vote in the Senate, the yay or nay vote like they did in the House. Okay, there were 14 Republicans, 14 white male Republicans who voted against Juneteenth becoming a federal holiday in the House of Representatives. Check out the African History Network on Facebook and Michael Imhotep on YouTube, and you can see the broadcast I've done dealing with the real history of Juneteenth. But when we understand this history, and the more we understand about this history, the more we understand ourselves. Our history gives us our values, our interests, and our principles. This gives us a cultural paradigm we see reality through, but this influences our economic empowerment and political empowerment. This teaches us about the politics and the laws and policies that need to be put in place so we understand the past. We can better prepare ourselves for the future. Okay. And what you do for yourself, what you do to yourself, and what you allow other people to do to you and get away with is based upon what you think about yourself. What you think about yourself is based upon what you have been taught about yourself. What you've been taught about yourself is based upon everything you've read, heard, and seen about yourself. So all these laws and policies that we're advocating for, whether we talk about the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act, whether we talk about debt forgiveness for student loans, all this comes out of a historical context. And most of these things we can trace back to a legacy of slavery as well. Whether we talk about reparations and Juneteenth is directly related to reparations, repairing the damage of slavery. All this is connected. But this article here from the New York Times, and we talked about this on my show as well. This article here from the New York Times, this is from, what date is this? This is from, let me flip over and look at the article from the Times. I think this was July 16th. Okay. July 16th, 2021. Most Americans know little or nothing about Juneteenth poll finds. Most Americans know little or nothing about Juneteenth poll finds. It's about 60% of Americans know little or nothing about Juneteenth. Now, African Americans have been celebrating Juneteenth to various extents. since 1866. If 60% of Americans know little or nothing about Juneteenth, how much do they know about slavery? America must have a massive history lesson. America must have a massive history lesson. And many African Americans don't know about slavery, don't really understand the history of slavery, etc., and Reconstruction, what happened after slavery. So Americans in general are very ignorant of history. And we see this also when we look at January 19th, 2021. There was a story from CBS this morning. And they did a story how most Americans don't know what's in the U.S. Constitution. Okay. Then we look at studies from AL.com, Alabama.com. 2/3 of Americans cannot name the three branches of government. Okay. 2/3 of Americans cannot name the three branches of government. So when we go through and look at this, people's understanding of history largely influences who they vote for, the policies they support, and who they vote for political office. When you have elected officials who are ignorant of history, okay, oftentimes they're voted into office by people who are ignorant of history as well. Okay, so when we try to get our issues and concerns met, all this is dealing with historical context. And people who are ignorant of history are not fit to serve in political office, state legislature, U.S. House of Representatives, U.S. Senate, president. Okay, it's too much damage that they can do. That's too much power for ignorant people to have. If you read this article here from AL.com, Alabama.com, 1 in 5 Americans can't name a single branch of the U.S. government. This is from September 19th, 2019. Okay. 1 in 5 Americans can't name a single branch of the U.S. government. Now, Senator Tommy Tuberville from Alabama, when he was running for the Senate, he could not name 3 branches of government. Okay. All right. Judicial, executive, and legislative. He cannot name the 3 branches of government. He's running for a U.S. Senate to be a U.S. senator. He won the U.S. Senate seat. He also could not explain the 1965 Voting Rights Act, and he's from Alabama. We know Selma, Alabama was ground zero for the fight for the 1965 Voting Rights Act. If we look at this article quickly here, 1 in 5 Americans can't name a single branch of the U.S. government. Now, all this ties into history, and this deals with what we deal with in this 10-week online course. Okay. And politics is the legal distribution of scarce wealth pound resources and the writing of laws, statutes, ordinances, amendments, and treaties, their adoption, interpretation, and enforcement. This is all connected. Politics is the legal distribution of scarce wealth pound resources and the writing of laws, statutes, ordinances, amendments, and treaties, their adoption, interpretation, and enforcement. So a recent survey found America may need to go back to civics class. Civics largely has been taken out of the schools. Unfortunately, this is why we have to teach this to our children, and civics has to be put back into schools. Annenberg Public Policy Center's Civics Knowledge Survey found only 2 in 5 American adults, or 39%, could correctly name the 3 branches of government. Only 39% could correctly name the 3 branches of government. Okay. So you're looking at about close to 2/3. We're looking at about 61% who could not name the 3 branches of government. Almost 2/3 of Americans cannot name the 3 branches of government. That figure was the highest in 5 years, up from 32% the previous year. Okay. So in 2018, it looks like 2018, only 32% of Americans could name the 3 branches of government. It makes no sense. But then you see how a lot of these ignorant Republicans get elected into office, and some ignorant Democrats like Kristen Sinema of Arizona. Okay. People don't understand history, don't understand the Constitution, things like this. 1 in 5 adults could not name any branch of the federal government. 1 in 5 adults could not name any branch of the federal government, the study showed. This is from AL.com. Now, how much do you think these people know about the history of slavery? How much do you think they know about the history of slavery? How much do you think they know about the Civil War? All this fight today, all these issues today are the result of history. Okay, so the more that we understand this history, the better we understand how to navigate through all this and understand these policies that need to be put in place and understand how to get these policies passed. I was speaking in Atlanta at the 9th annual Juneteenth festival, June 18th through the 20th, 2021. Okay, and I was doing 2 presentations there. I was speaking Saturday and Sunday, and I was a vendor as well. And, I asked maybe about 50 people in total, maybe more than that. How many seats in the House of Representatives are there? No one could tell me. They had this thinking, look, the U.S. House of Representatives, nobody could tell me. There are 435 seats in the House of Representatives. I asked people, how many votes does it take to get a bill passed in the House of Representatives? All this ties into history. This is all connected to history rooted in the U.S. Constitution. These are things we deal with in this 10-week online course. Ask people, explain to me, how many votes does it take to get a bill passed in the U.S. House of Representatives? No one could tell me. It takes 218 votes, a simple majority, 218. How many seats in the U.S. Senate? Nobody could tell me. How many seats in the Senate? There are 100. Based upon the U.S. Constitution, every state has 2 U.S. senators. How many votes does it take to get most bills passed in the Senate? Nobody could tell me. I'm asking adults. I'm not talking about 5-year-olds. I'm asking African Americans, adults. I'm in Atlanta. Georgia has the largest Confederate monument in the country. It's called Stone Mountain. On the side, it's a huge mountain. On the side of Stone Mountain, have you all seen Stone Mountain? I've climbed to the top of Stone Mountain. Okay, they have a pathway where you can climb to the top of Stone Mountain. On Stone Mountain, you have the reliefs, the carvings of 3 Confederate, they call heroes. Okay. You have General Robert E. Lee of Virginia. You have Thomas Stonewall Jackson and Jefferson Davis, who was the president of the Confederacy. Okay. This is Stone Mountain. This is the largest Confederate monument in the country. This is in Georgia right now. Stone Mountain. Read this article here from SmithsonianMag.com, official website of the Smithsonian Institute. What will happen to Stone Mountain, America's largest Confederate memorial? Okay, this is there in Georgia right now. So all this deals with history, the fight to remove Confederate monuments. Okay, the fight to rename military bases that are named for Confederate soldiers and Confederate generals. And these were traitors to the Union who committed treason against the Union based upon Article 3, Section 3 of the U.S. Constitution. And they took up arms against the Union. They seceded from the Union, starting with South Carolina, December 20th, 1860, 6 weeks after Abraham Lincoln became president-elect. And he was president-elect of the Republican Party, November 1860 presidential election. And we're going to see the Civil War start the following year, April 12, 1861. When we deal with Juneteenth is directly tied to all this history. And making Juneteenth a federal holiday, if you watch my videos, I've been breaking this down. To make Juneteenth a federal holiday, what this is doing, this is forcing a national conversation about a history that Republicans are passing laws to suppress the teaching of that history in schools. This is forcing a national conversation. America has to have a massive history lesson. Americans are very ignorant of history. This is why many Americans still think that it was the Emancipation Proclamation that freed the enslaved Africans. And it was not. It was the 13th Amendment ratified December 6th, 1865, when Georgia ratified the 13th Amendment. Okay, we're going to continue. How's everybody doing here? Everybody share this broadcast on your social media platforms. I'm Michael Imhotep, founder of the African History Network, host of the African History Network show. I'm a talk show host, researcher, lecturer, writer, historian. I'm doing an overview of a 10-week online course that I teach called Ancient Kemet. It's one of the original names for Egypt. Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Maafa. Understanding the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school. Now, the Maafa is a Kiswahili term, which means our great disaster, our Holocaust. Okay. And this is a 10-week online course that I teach. We deal with thousands of years of history, and we deal with what led up to the transatlantic slave trade taking place. I'm going to post a link here. You can register for the online course right now. It starts up Sunday, July 4th, the 4th of July, Sunday, July 4th, 2021, 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you go to our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, and scroll down the page, you'll see the information. You'll see information for my radio show. I'm on 6 days a week. I'm a radio talk show host here in Detroit on 910 a.m. the Superstation WFDF. I'm on terrestrial radio. They have us broadcasting from home because of COVID-19. And then you can click here to listen to audio podcasts of the shows as well, and the video podcasts on Facebook and YouTube. You can click here to read articles that I've written also. So this is a 10-week online course. It starts up Sunday, July 4th, and we have the flyer here as well. Okay. Click here to register here. It takes you to the next page, and click right here to enroll. As soon as you enroll, you can start watching content. Okay. So what we're going to do is, we have a class that meets on Saturdays right now that's wrapping up, and you're going to get enrolled in the Saturday class so you can start watching the content going back to class 1, and you can join us in the Saturday class, which meets 12 noon to 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So you can join us for the last few sessions of the Saturday class, and you'll be enrolled in the Sunday, July 4th class that starts with class number 1. For the 10-week online course. Okay. So as soon as you register, you can start watching content. And we have an overview here of the course as well. Okay. And the class is regularly $130, on sale $80. We do the class live. All the sessions are recorded. So if you missed the class or something like that, of course, you can go back and watch it. It's all archived, not a problem. And you still have access to the course. You can still watch the content even after the course is over. So next year, you can still go back and watch this course that you registered for. I'm going to post a link here again. You can use this with your children. You can use this to educate your children as well. A lot of people are looking for content that they can use with children. I would say this class is PG-13. So your children can watch along with you if you want. Or there may be information you want to take from here and use with your children. There are books that we use in the course. Now, you don't have to buy any of the books, but there are books that we use, like some you may want to get for your own personal library, but you don't have to feel obligated to buy any of these books to follow along in class. These are 2 books that I use: Golden Age of the Moor, edited by Dr. Ivy Van Sertima, as well as Black Star, the African Presence in Early Europe by Runoko Rashidi. Runoko's a friend of mine, brilliant scholar, brilliant historian, voracious, prolific writer. He's a world traveler. He's been to over 130 countries and islands. And he has an essay in this book here dealing with the Moors. So when we deal with the Moors, these are 2 books that I use on that. For that, this is another book that I used, Before the Mayflower by Lerone Bennett Jr. This is a beat up copy, the 6th edition. Before the Mayflower by Lerone Bennett Jr. is another book that I use. We use this book here, The Declaration of Independence and Other Great Documents of American History, 1775 to 1865, edited by John Grafton. So we deal with the Declaration of Independence and the U.S. Constitution. This one, last time I checked, this is like $2. It's from Dover Books. Okay. Very inexpensive. And another book that I use is, let's see here. Another book that I use is, let me look here. Nile Valley Contributions to Civilization by Tony Browder. We also use this one here. Now, this book is out of print, but Dr. David Imhotep comes and speaks to my class live. He's a friend of mine. A lot of these scholars are some of my teachers. So some of them we have speak to our class live. The First Americans Were Africans, Documented Evidence by Dr. David Imhotep. It's another book that I use. His new book will be out in about 2 or 3 weeks. He just spoke to my class on June 12th. The Saturday class is wrapping up. And of course, we use Nile Valley Contributions to Civilization by Tony Browder. And I'm trying to see where that book is. Also, Egypt on the Potomac. Egypt on the Potomac is another book that I use as well. Okay, I'm not sure what those are. Oh, over here. I've got hundreds of articles all over the place. Nile Valley Contributions to Civilization as well by Tony Browder, as well as Egypt on the Potomac. So those are just a few of the books that we use as reference in the online course. Let's continue here with the PowerPoint presentation. So read this article from the New York Times. And I dealt with this on my show Tuesday, June 22nd, the African History Network show. 60%. Most Americans know little or nothing about Juneteenth poll finds. This is forcing America. This is forcing a history lesson on America, a much needed history lesson. So yeah, this is Teaching Hard History, American Slavery from the Southern Poverty Law Center. Okay, this is the cover of the study that I was talking about. This one right here, this study here. And you go to splcenter.org, you can download it, splcenter.org. And this is one of my teachers, Dr. Leonard Jeffries, who I actually talked to yesterday. I sent him a video of an interview that was done with me on the Urban Information News Network here in Detroit, dealing with the history of Juneteenth and Juneteenth becoming a federal holiday. And he called me, we talked. So I'm setting up an interview with him. I've interviewed him a number of times in the past, I think about 17 times. This is one of our great Grandmaster scholars, Dr. Leonard Jeffries. And Dr. J says, whoever controls the images controls your self-esteem, self-respect, and self-development. Whoever controls the history controls the vision. Okay, this is why we have to fight for against negative stereotypical images of African Americans as well, because these images are also exported around the world, and this ties into history as well. Okay, now when Dr. Leonard Jeffries and Professor James Small teach, two of my teachers, and if you listen to my show, you've heard interviews I've done with them over the years. They talk about the pyramid principle. Okay, now here's the pyramid of Khafre at Giza. And the pyramid has three sides. Okay, the foundation is African history and culture. It's African history and culture. It gives us our foundation. It gives us our values, our interests, and our principles. And this influences our political empowerment as well. Okay, our values, our interests, and our principles. This gives us a cultural paradigm that we see reality through. And this influences how we engage in economics. Okay, do we use European capitalism to engage in economics, or do we use African concepts of economic empowerment, which are the co-ops, the cooperatives? Okay, which are concepts that we brought with us from Africa. If you read Collective Courage by Dr. Jessica Gordon Nimhart, Collective Courage, which deals with a history of cooperative economics and the co-ops that we had. Where's that book? Collective Courage. Right here. Collective Courage by Dr. Jessica Gordon Nimhart. This deals with the co-ops that we had, even during slavery. The things like the Free African Society of 1787, the Colored Merchants Association, founded about 1928, which comes out of the Negro Business League, the National Negro Business League, and the Colored Merchants Association was an association of African-American grocery store owners. The Colored Farmers Union, founded in 1886 in Texas, which grows to have about 1.2 million members. It's probably the largest co-op that we had. We have a deep, rich history of economic empowerment, but that's tied to the co-ops, the cooperatives, where the members are also owners, part owners. Probably the most well-known type of cooperative is a credit union. Okay, a credit union that comes from the co-ops. And this concept of cooperatives are concepts we brought with us from Africa. Okay, so we have a deep, rich history of this, but a lot of people don't know this. We were doing things like raising money for people who were in slavery, buying them out of slavery, You have benevolent societies raising money for burial cost for African Americans. We have a whole deep, rich history of cooperative economics. So cooperative economics is not black capitalism. It's not like capitalism dressed up in red, black, and green. Okay. The concept of the cooperatives is much different. Okay. So this is why we have to really understand that. But that comes from understanding African history and culture. That gives us our foundation that influences how we engage in economics, how we engage in political empowerment. We have to have a synthesis of all three of these as well. It's not just one. We have to have a synthesis of all three of these. Okay. Now, very briefly here, read this article from theatlantic.com. What kids are really learning about slavery? What kids are really learning about slavery? And this was the first article I saw that dealt with the study from the Southern Poverty Law Center. This article came out February 1st, 2018. What kids are really learning about slavery from theatlantic.com. And in the study, Teaching Hard History American Slavery from the Southern Poverty Law Center, they did a survey of 1,000 high school seniors about what they know about the history of slavery. Only 8% of high school seniors surveyed could identify slavery as the central cause of the Civil War. Only 8%. Fewer than 1/3, or only 32%, correctly named the 13th Amendment as the formal end of U.S. slavery. Only 32% knew this. Now, what this means is that most likely their parents didn't teach them, and probably their parents don't know either. Americans are very ignorant of history. When we deal with issues and policies pertaining to us, they come from a historical context, a legacy of slavery, Jim Crow segregation, housing segregation, different things like this. And we have to have people who understand history, or at least are willing to learn history, to be able to understand the importance of these policies and why they need to vote yes as opposed to no on policies pertaining to us. But we also have to understand this as well, because many of our people don't understand history. Half our people still think Willie Lynch historically existed. Willie Lynch never historically existed. Number one, not only did Willie Lynch not exist, the Willie Lynch letter has been proven to be a fraud. The Willie Lynch letter 1712. There are words in the Willie Lynch letter that didn't even exist in the early 18th century. And the syntax, the sentence structure of the English vernacular was different in the early 18th century than it is in the 20th century or the 21st century, late 20th century, 21st century. Dr. Kwabena Ashanti came out and admitted he wrote the Willie Lynch letter about 1970. It's a fraud. And Willie Lynch never historically existed. That's why you don't hear any abolitionists talking about Willie Lynch, or you don't find Willie Lynch anywhere in history. Now, there was a Captain Willie Lynch in the 19th century, but that's 100 years later. That's 100 years later. This is a different person. So let's continue here. So read this one here from theatlantic.com. Okay. And this shows how little 12th graders actually know about history and about the history of slavery. And fewer than half, or only 46% of 12th graders surveyed, identified the Middle Passage as the transport of enslaved Africans across the Atlantic Ocean to North America. So we have to educate our children on this. This is a study here, new study. This is an article from theroot.com. New studies find that positive feelings about blackness improve academic performance for black girls. This was an article in the Journal of Blacks in Higher Education, a study by Professor Sharita Butler Barnes at Washington University in St. Louis. So check that out. Very quickly here. Okay, this is the step pyramid at Saqqara that Imhotep was the architect of in the Supiti Zoser, or Pharaoh Zoser. This is an early form of pyramid building technology, the mastaba, the flat bench pyramid. The ones of Khufu, Khafre, and Menkaure, we see are much more intricate. We see that pyramid building technology evolves over hundreds of years. So here are some more of the things that we deal with in the online course. Okay. How's everybody doing today? How you all like this type of information? Share this broadcast on your social media platforms. Invite your friends to tune in also. We deal with what was the transatlantic slave trade. Okay. And once again, I do a PowerPoint presentation. We have book references, articles, video clips, etc. We do a what was the transatlantic slave trade. And I deal with a timeline of history as well that deals with tens of thousands of years of history, so we can frame the conversation properly, and we can understand chronology and cause and effect. So it's important to deal with chronology of history. What was the transatlantic slave trade? What were some of the events that led up to the transatlantic slave trade starting? What role did Christopher Columbus play? Columbus is crucial. It's essential to understand Christopher Columbus and the role Columbus played in spreading the transatlantic slave trade. It didn't start with him, but his 4 voyages starting August 3rd, 1492, when he set sail on the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria, helped to spread slavery and the attack on indigenous people. It helps to spread racism and capitalism, the exploitation of indigenous people. And we're going to see the Spanish conquering areas, Haiti, Puerto Rico, Cuba, Honduras, Panama. They're also setting up these sugarcane plantations as well. They're killing the indigenous people. They are bringing in Africans, shipping in Africans, enslaving them as well. And we're going to see the transatlantic slave trade really explode from this, and as well as the Asiento de Negros of about 1517, signed by King Charles V, also known as King Charles I. Okay, the Asiento is extremely important to understanding the spread and the growth of the transatlantic slave trade. And the Asiento dealt with, it was a license given to slave trading nations, giving them license to supply African slaves to Spanish colonies, the Asiento de Negros. Okay, this is something that we talk about in the course, and it's very important to understand the Asientos. What role did Christopher Columbus play? And the other thing that's really important to understand about Columbus is when you look at where Columbus went on his 4 voyages, and we'll show you this in just a minute, Columbus never came to the land that we call the United States of America. Columbus never came to the land that we call the United States of America. The closest he came here was Cuba, which is 90 miles away. So all the statues of Christopher Columbus around the country, that largely comes from the Italian American influence and Italian Americans pushing for this. Okay, all those statues really should come down. Okay, he was a terrorist. He inflicted genocide amongst the people, and he's not somebody that should be honored. We see more and more cities and states are celebrating Indigenous Peoples Day, but Columbus was a master of genocide. This is not somebody that we should be celebrating, especially African Americans, because a lot of people he was killing were African Americans also, or African people. All right, now, we deal with when did Africans first come to the U.S. as slaves, as enslaved Africans. And I know there's a whole lot of focus on 1619. Okay, a lot of focus on 1619. 1619 in Virginia did happen, but African people were in this land going back tens of thousands of years before 1619. Okay, this is something that is important to understand. Even when you just look at the Spanish taking Africans into the area that we call South Carolina, they were doing that in 1526. This is 93 years before Virginia. Okay, 93 years before Virginia. And when we look at Juan Garrido, and we talk about this, when we look at Juan Garrido in 1513 coming into Florida with the Spanish conquistador Juan Ponce de Leon. Juan Garrido was of African descent. He was born in West Africa around 1480. So Juan Garrido, we know this may be the first African we know of by name. We know he was here in 1480. Okay, that's before 1526. And that's in Spanish territory, Florida. Okay, so this is long before 1619. So this is why we have to understand this chronology of history. And it's important to know that African people did not first come to this land conquered by Europeans, shackled in chains either. We deal with, did Africans sell themselves into slavery? We deal with that complicated history. Were African people in America before the slave trade? Yes, we were. Okay. Yes, we and when you read the first Americans were Africans documented evidence, and this is why this is one of the sources I use in the class. We were in this land before Native Americans came into existence. We were in this land before Native Americans came into existence also. Okay. The first Americans were Africans documented evidence by Dr. David Imhotep. African people of Khoisan have the oldest DNA on the planet. They come from Southern Africa. They go all around the world. And they were in this land as well, the short-statured Africans, okay? The short-statured Africans, ancestors to the Anu and the Twa. There's a article from face-to-faceafrica.com that deals with the Khoisan, and let me pull this up here from face-to-faceafrica.com, because see, in the course, what we do is show you how to connect all these things together, these news articles that you see. We show you how to connect all this together. And then we also decode symbols as well. There's a symbol encyclopedia that I use. So I encourage people to get a symbols encyclopedia. Mine is right here. Signs and Symbols, an illustrated guide to the origins and meanings. Signs and Symbols, an illustrated guide to the origins and meanings. This has 2,000 symbols in it from around the world. Okay, 2,000 symbols. It decodes them, and symbols are related to culture and history. The first page is Heru out of ancient Kemet. Okay, that's on the first page, Heru out of ancient Kemet. And then we look at, on the front, we see different symbols from the Medu Neter. Okay, we see the Eye of Heru, we see a pyramid. And then on the back, we see some of those same symbols. Then we see the Ankh, the African key or African symbol of eternal life, the Ankh. And we know that plays a part in the story of Asar, Aset, and Heru. And Aset being impregnated with the virgin, the virgin Aset being impregnated with the baby Heru, who's going to be born on December 25th. All this is connected. This comes out of ancient African mythology, spiritual systems. This is all connected. All right, now. So this article here from Amazon, from dealing with Amazon.com. This is from face-to-faceafrica.com. Africa's oldest ethnic group fights to keep ancestral land away from Amazon reach. Amazon.com reach. This is from June 4th, 2021. This is a Khoisan man. Amazon is looking to build its new African headquarters in Cape Town, South Africa, in a project that will take between 3 and 5 years. However, the land on which the multi-billion-dollar corporation seeks to put its edifice belongs to the local Khoisan people, reputed to be the oldest existing people in the world. Read the rest of this article here, dealing with the Khoisan. Okay. These are the short-statured Africans. They're the ancestors to the Anu and the Twa. They go all around the world, and they were here in this land as well. All right. How y'all like this type of information? We're going to post the link again here so you can register for the online course. This starts up Sunday, July 4th, the 4th of July, as Dr. Shaka Musa Baron Shango called it, the 4th of July. He wrote the books African People and European Holidays and Mental Genocide, book 1 and book 2. So when you go to our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, scroll down the home page and you'll see the information for our radio show. Scroll down, you'll see the information for the online course. Okay, and we have a flyer here. Click right here for register here. Takes you to the next page. Click on enroll. As soon as you enroll, you can start watching course content. And like I said, we have a class on Saturday that's wrapping up. We have like 3 more sessions of the Saturday class. So we're going to do 2 things for you. You're going to enroll you in the Saturday class so you can watch the last 3 sessions or so. That meets on Saturdays, 12 noon to 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we'll enroll you in the new course that starts with class number 1 on Sunday, July 1st. Okay, Sunday, July 1st, 2021. And it's going to be 2 p.m. Class is going to be 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we do the class live. All the classes are live, but we record all of them as well. All the sessions are recorded. So if you miss anything, you can go back and watch it archived on demand. And you can watch from around the world as well. All right. So let me post the link here. You can register for the online course. You can start watching content right away. And you're also in the Saturday class that you'll also get the archives of. You can watch the class that where archaeologist Nubia Wardford spoke to our class. She's an African-American female archaeologist. We talked about the origins of ancient Kush and the African queens of antiquity. And then also you can see the class where Dr. David Imhotep spoke to our class as well. The author of The First Americans Were Africans, Documented Evidence. All right, so we just posted the link here. Let's go back to the PowerPoint presentation. So we do when did Africans first come to the U.S. as slaves? Did Africans sell themselves into slavery? We deal with that complicated history. Were African people in America before the transatlantic slave trade? Absolutely. We were here before Native Americans came into existence. When we deal with Columbus, Columbus is crucial to understanding the exploitation of indigenous people and the spread of capitalism, racism, slavery, etc. Columbus and his 4 voyages. So he set sail August 3rd, 1492 on the Nina de Pinta and the Santa Maria. And he ends up in the Bahamas, or what he calls San Salvador, October 12th, 1492. This is why Columbus Day is celebrated on October 12th. He goes into Cuba and Hispaniola, which is Haiti. His second voyage, September 1493, he goes into the West Indies and Boricuan, which is Puerto Rico and Jamaica, in 1494. His third voyage, May 1498, he goes into Trinidad and the Venezuelan mainland in South America. And fourth voyage, May 1504, he goes into Panama and Honduras in Central America. He never comes to the land that we call the United States of America. Okay, he never comes to the land that we call the United States of America. So all those statues of Christopher Columbus, they should come down in the U.S. I'm against tearing statues. I'm against that because I don't want people to do that to statues of our heroes. But the authorities, city council, governors, they should take all those statues down, put them in museums. Okay, all those statues of the master genocide, Columbus, should come down. He was a fraud also. Read one of the books we use is Christopher Columbus and the African Holocaust, Slavery and the Rise of European Capitalism by Dr. John Henrik Clarke. This is another book we use in the class. Christopher Columbus and the African Holocaust, Slavery and the Rise of European Capitalism by one of our Grandmaster Scholar Warriors, Dr. John Henrik Clarke. All right, let's continue here quickly. So some other things we deal with in the online course, the 800-year occupation of Europe by the Africans known as the Moors. This is crucial to understanding the transatlantic slave trade, understanding this history. Okay. We can't just go from ancient Kemet and Ta-Nehisi and Nubia and things like this, Abyssinia, Ethiopia, to the slave trade, You got to deal with that 800-year occupation of Europe by the Africans known as the Moors, who had taken the teachings from ancient Kemet, ancient Egypt into Europe, is bringing Europe out of the Dark Ages, and is going to save Europe from the Black Death, the bubonic plague, which hits in spurts from 1347 AD to 1400. And Europe lost between 1/4 to 1/3 of the population because of the Black Death. And they're coming out of the Dark Ages, and they're going in and conquering people's land, extracting the mineral wealth out, setting up sugarcane plantations, and Europe is rebuilding itself as well. Okay. So they go from the Dark Ages into the Renaissance age, which is an age of enlightenment, allegedly. We deal with shocking archaeological discoveries that are causing experts to rethink everything. Insurance companies that took out insurance policies on slave ships and enslaved Africans on plantations. Freemasonry, America, and the founding fathers. The origins of the term America, Africa, and more. So there's a lot we deal with. This is a 10-week online course here. The problem with slave movies, why are we being bombarded with slave movies and slave themed TV shows? And this is something I talked about even when the TV show Underground was on. You know, we're the TV shows about Africans in antiquity and ancient Kemet and Ta-Nehisi when we ruled nations. Okay. Well, where are TV shows like that? If you're going to have TV shows like Underground, you're going to have TV shows during slavery. Okay. Where are TV shows, of Africans in antiquity when we were ruling empires in Ghana, Shanghai, and Mali, different things like that. We do it Asar, Aset, and Heru, and the origins of the Immaculate Conception story. And what you're going to see is a lot of these. You're going to see that a lot of these stories that we see now. This may go outside the circumference of some people's awareness, but a lot of the stories that we see in Christianity or in other religions are going to be adaptations of much older stories coming out of ancient Africa. And they're going to be adapted to various people's cultures, and the names are changed and things like this. Okay. But we see this even with the Helios Biblos, or the Sun Book, or what we call the Holy Bible. When we look at the word Christ comes from the Greek word Christos, and we know Christ meaning anointed one or anointed. But this goes back to Karest, Karst, Karest, which means the rising of the spirit, which is, out of ancient Kemet, ancient Egypt. So, you know, it's one of my teachers, Professor Kabahaya Watha Kamene, says to understand the existence of something, you must first understand the pre-existence of existence. To understand the existence of something, you must first understand the pre-existence of existence. So we deal with all that in the Asar, Aset, and Heru, and the origins of the Immaculate Conception story. Links to ancient Kemet, Egypt, and early Christianity, Freemasonry in America. And we know Freemasonry is based upon the teachings coming out of ancient Kemet and the mystery systems, the Grand Lodges out of ancient Kemet, ancient Egypt. The fake Willie Lynch letter, 1712. The African influence in the film Black Panther, because the film Black Panther is deep on multiple levels. I did like 3 months of research on the film Black Panther and the comic book to be able to do my lectures on it. And, you know, the language spoken in the film Black Panther is isiXhosa, which is a Bantu language, is a real African language. Wakanda is a Kikongo word, but Wakanda is also a Native American word. We see it in Omaha Ponca and Sioux Indian languages. It means possesses secret powers, Wakanda. Now, what was the transatlantic slave trade? The transatlantic slave trade was the forced journey of African people from Europe to Africa to the Americas. Trinkets from Europe exchanged for Africans, or used, or they used money to purchase them. It lasts from basically the 1440s to 1865, right about 1441, with the Portuguese going into Mauritania. What was the Middle Passage? The Middle Passage was the leg of the triangular trade from Africa to America, or the New World. Manufactured products such as rum, textiles, weapons, gunpowder, etc., were taken from Europe to Africa in exchange for Africans who would become slaves, or for exchange for gold and silver. The African slaves were then sold in the Americas Caribbean, etc., for raw materials such as sugar, molasses, which was turned into rum, tobacco, later on cotton, and also for fish, flour, and foodstuffs. Okay, this deals with the Middle Passage. So we go through and break down all this, show you step by step. We have maps, etc., to get a better understanding of all this. And this brings you right up to today. We can go through a chronology of history. The attacks on the voting rights of African Americans. We can go back to 1890. We'll go back to 1870, actually. Go back to 1870 with the 15th Amendment being ratified February 3rd, 1870, and adopted. 15th Amendment guaranteed the right to vote for African American men. And this is during Reconstruction. Reconstruction is basically 1865 to 1877, after the Civil War ends. And we're going to see, as soon as the 15th Amendment is adopted, we're going to see efforts to start putting obstacles in the way of African Americans voting. We're going to see these written into state constitutions, like the Mississippi State Constitution of 1890, which made poll taxes and literacy tests legal. Okay. And we're going to see other southern states start adopting state constitutions with these obstacles in the way of African Americans voting in them, because during Reconstruction, we had about 2,000 African American elected officials that we voted into office. Okay. And many of them were former slaves. And you have white men who are focusing on shutting this down. So they start putting these obstacles in the way of us voting. And the lawsuit of Williams versus Mississippi of 1898, the U.S. Supreme Court rules that it does not violate the Constitution to have poll taxes and literacy tests. Okay. So, and then they're going to have the grandfather clause of 1898, which states that if your grandfather could not vote because he was a slave, then you can't vote. So they're putting all these obstacles in the way of us voting. This is why you needed this a Voting Rights Act of 1965, going back to things in the late 1800s and these state constitutions, and the Texas State Constitution of 1876, Louisiana State Constitution of 1898. All this history is connected. It brings you right up to today. All right, let's continue. Okay, so this is Runoko Rashidi. Runoko's a friend of mine, and we use two of his books for reference in the online course also. Golden Age of the Moor and the African Presence, the Black Star, the African Presence in Early Europe. This is Dr. David Imhotep, who wrote the book, The First Americans Were Africans, Documented Evidence. I've interviewed him, I think, 14 times, something like that. His book has 713 footnotes and deals with the African presence in the Americas dating back at least 56,000 years ago and 51,700 years ago in the land we call the United States of America. If page 14 of his book deals with a discovery in Allendale County, South Carolina from 2004 that Dr. Albert Goodyear made. Okay, that Dr. Albert Goodyear made. And Dr. Albert Goodyear is an archaeologist at the University of South Carolina. They found 13 different types of evidence fairly documenting an African presence in South Carolina, dating back at least 51,700 years ago. 13 different types of evidence. They found artifacts, architecture, campsites, carvings, Egyptian writings, footprints in lava, genetic M174D haploid groups dealing with DNA and genetics, linguistics, skulls, skeletons, structures, and tools, okay, and paintings. Linguistics, paintings, skulls, skeletons, structures, and tools. They found 13 different types of evidence, thoroughly documenting an African presence in the Americas dating back at least 51,700 years ago. This is before Native Americans came into existence, and these were the Khoisan, who I just showed you a picture of also. Now, this is Dr. Albert Goodyear, okay? And Dr. Albert Goodyear is a white archaeologist at the University of South Carolina. This is an article from ScienceDaily.com from November 18th, 2004. All right. How's everybody doing? Share this broadcast on your social media platforms. Invite your friends to tune in as well. We're going to post a link again. You can register for the online course. It starts up Sunday, July 4th, 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This is a 10-week online course. Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Maafa, understanding the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school. Okay. And you can you register for it now, and we do the classes live. All the sessions are also recorded, so you can go back and watch it over and over again. And we'll also enroll you in the Saturday class that we have that's wrapping up now. It has about 3 more classes, and you'll be able to join us live in the Saturday class, which is meets 12 noon to 2 p.m. on Saturday, Eastern Standard Time. But also we have the previous classes of the Saturday class archived, so you'll be able to watch those as well. This article here from ScienceDaily.com, which is a scientific website, and it has archaeological discoveries, different things like that. There's an article entitled "New Evidence Puts Man in North America 50,000 Years Ago." November 18th, 2004, ScienceDaily.com. Here's a summary of what the article says. Radiocarbon tests of carbonized plant remains where artifacts were unearthed last May along the Savannah River in Allendale County by University of South Carolina archaeologist Dr. Albert Goodyear indicate that the sediments containing these artifacts are at least 50,000 years old, meaning that humans inhabited North America long before the last ice age. Okay, these were the Khoisan. This is before Native Americans come into existence. This is a summary. This is not my summary. This is the summary from ScienceDaily.com about the discovery in 2004 that Dr. Albert Goodyear made. And we go through and we look at numerous recent archaeological discoveries that are just mind-blowing. And when these new discoveries come out, the scientists, the paleontologists are saying we have to rethink everything. There was one, the lost city of Egypt, the Golden City, dates back 3,000 years ago. But they're saying that we have to rethink everything and we have to push the timelines back. Okay. You know, Juvenile had the song Back That Thing Up, like 1998, 1999. When these new discoveries come out, they keep having to back the timelines up. They keep having to back these things up. So the deeper they dig, the blacker the planet gets, the more research they do, the older we get. And these archaeological discoveries are coming out, you know, every other week, something like that. This is Dr. David Imhotep. He was interviewed on WKRP in Cincinnati, Channel 5. Let me play an excerpt of this interview. Just 1 second. This gives you some more background information because a lot of people don't know this information.
I should say, and we have a picture of the book too. It's the first Americans were Africans, and we were talking about Dr. Ivan Van Sertima because I remember back in the 1980s, my dad took me to hear him. He came here to Cincinnati, and his book was "They Came Before Columbus," and he talked about how Africans were here. He had a lot of, great research information, and so it was just kind of eye-opening. But we haven't heard a lot about that recently. So tell us how you got involved here.
I'm showing that Africans not only came before Columbus, they came before the Indians.
You're going even farther back.
I'm going farther back, at least 56,000 years old.
Okay, now we've got a graphic up here about 130,000 years ago.
Yeah, well, they sailed over here. And when I lecture, people say, well, wait a minute, humans weren't sailing along, they weren't boating 130,000 years ago. And I beg to differ. Last year, New York Times quoted the BBC, and they wrote an article on how in Crete they have found a stone industry of stone tools dating back to at least 130,000 years. And Crete has been an island in the middle of the Mediterranean for 5 million years. So they had to sail, and it was a continuous civilization, which means they were going back and forth. They knew how to navigate. So if they got to Crete 130,000 years ago, it's easy 70,000 years later that they could make it to the Americans at 6,000.
Right. That's really, how did you even get back to this research? I mean, this is just, did you start by reading They Came Before Columbus, and then you expanded on that research?
Yeah, you see, 36 years ago, Dr. Van Sertima's book came out, and this information is piled on for 36 years. So many different things, so many cutting-edge articles and things have been found since then.
Well, and tell us a little bit about these Africans who came before the Indians, before Columbus.
Okay, they came here, and they were first. They came to Piedra Fiorita, which is southeastern Brazil. You'll see that that's the closest point from Africa to South America. And by canoe, a fellow, a navigator who was a doctor, who wanted to prove that it could be done just in a canoe. And he set out in a canoe with a supply ship, but it did not touch him. He had a canoe with no oars, no paddle, no sail, nothing. He just sat there, and the currents took him straight from Africa to here. You've heard about people, if you throw a bottle in the water with a note, it'll come over. Yes, there are rivers in the ocean, currents. And it took him 52 days only. So you put a large sail on that vessel, and you get here in less than a month.
So it's definitely possible. We know that. It's physically possible.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so what part of Africa were the Africans from who came to Brazil?
Well, the DNA, the Genome Project found that the earliest ones, the ones that they found in Tierra del Fuego, in the very tip of South America in 1874, 1876, were the short Africans, the Khoisan, who spoke clicks like that. The gods must be crazy did a movie on it.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Yes. So they have
about the Coca-Cola bottle selling. Yeah.
Yes, they have the oldest DNA and the oldest language on the planet, and they were all over.
Oh, wow.
All over all three Americas, as well as Asia.
Well, have they done any DNA tests in Brazil to see that?
Yes, they have. The Genome Project went all around the world. There were 100,000 people participated.
Wow.
Taking DNA swabs.
And so first we know that it's possible to get over here by canoe. And second of all, the DNA from that group of Africans is in Brazil.
The most important thing, not to forget, to ask me, well, I will tell you that, where do the Native Americans come from? Well, we've always been taught that they came across the Bering Straits from Asia. This is true, but they did not come until 3000 BC. There is no evidence of them coming before 3000 BC. So for 53,000 years, there were nothing but Africans in North, Central, and South America.
Wow.
When they come over 3000 BC, those two groups, the Africans and the Mongolians, get together, the Asians, get together, and their children are the Native Americans.
Wow.
This is why the Native Americans do not look Chinese. They are a little different than Chinese.
Right.
Okay, so that was an excerpt from 2011. Dr. David Imhotep was interviewed on WKRP in Cincinnati, Channel 5 in Cincinnati. If you're old enough to remember the 1970s, 1980s TV show about the radio station, WKRP in Cincinnati, there really is a WKRP in Cincinnati, Channel 5. I don't know if it's a radio station, but there is a TV station. And that's on YouTube. You can check out that video. This is a archaeological discovery that we deal with here. This is from the New York Times. It deals with on Crete, very ancient mariners, and it talks about stone tools found on the Greek island of Crete that date back 130,000 years ago. This is from February 15, 2010. These stone tools date back 130,000 years ago, but Crete has been an island for more than 5 million years, which means that the people had to have sailed there. And this pushes back sailing in the Mediterranean 130,000 years ago. Originally, the archaeologists thought that sailing in the Mediterranean dated back no earlier than 10,000, 12,000 years ago. So they had to push that timeline back to about 130,000 years ago. Okay, so they keep having to back that thing up. So we deal with the Druids, who are dealing with a watered down version of teachings coming out of ancient Kemet, ancient Egypt. We deal with the discovery of Tanis Heraklion, the lost city of Egypt, that was built around 8th century BC. Okay. And it's swallowed up into, this is about a 1,200-year-old city that's swallowed up into the sea. And this article here is from news.yahoo.com from April 30th, 2013. Sunken Egyptian city reveals 1,200-year-old secrets. And they found 16-foot tall statues at the bottom of the sea, 700 anchors, 64 ships they found. Egypt's Bay of Abu Qir, they found 64 ships. And these are some of the statues they found, statues of Aset. So, I mean, these archaeological discoveries that they're finding are mind blowing. This deals with the 3,000-year-old lost golden city of Egypt. This discovery just came out April of 2021. So these discoveries are endless. All right, now, so these are just a few of the things that we deal with in the online course. Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Maafa, understanding the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school. This is a 10-week online course that I teach. We deal with thousands of years of history and what led up to the transatlantic slave trade taking place. And then when we look at, lastly, we look at something like this here, Egypt of the West. And Browder talks a lot about this in Egypt on the Potomac. But we look at the symbolism, and we look at the Washington Monument. The Washington Monument is a Tekken, it's an ancient African symbol of resurrection coming from the story of Asar, Aset, and Heru, who the Greeks called Osiris, Isis, and Horus. And there are about 1,200 Tekkenu all throughout ancient Kemet. Today, there are only about 12 or so left. And so the Washington Monument is a Tekken. The Greeks call it an obelisk. But we see this symbol also in Freemasonry. And we know Freemasonry is based upon teachings coming out of ancient Africa, especially the Nile Valley region of Africa. So if we look at the word Freemasonry, and this comes from Egypt on the Potomac by Tony Browder, the word Mason is derived from the Latin words mass and sun. Mason means child of light and expresses the desire to pursue light, which is a metaphor for the sun, which symbolizes knowledge. The term child of light or sons and daughters of light was first used to identify students who had completed 42 years of study in the temples of ancient Kemet, ancient Egypt. Many Masonic temples were modeled after the temples of ancient Kemet, places where light or knowledge was imparted in a series of steps or degrees, So when we look at the origins of liberal arts colleges, we see this is coming from the temples and the mystery systems in ancient Kemet. And if you read Stolen Legacy by George G.M. James, Stolen Legacy, he deals with the 7 liberal arts. Stolen Legacy by George G.M. James, and he deals with the 7 liberal arts and the trivium and the quadrivium and the rhetoric and the logic and arithmetic, things like this. So the concept of going to college, getting your credentials in a series of steps or degrees is an African concept. This is where this comes from. And this is where the liberal arts come from also. But we don't understand this history. Okay. This is coming from us. And historically, the concept of light was associated with knowledge. Okay. In school, if you have a child that's smart, you may say that's a bright child, B-R-I-G-H-T, associated with light. If it's a child that's not bright, you may say that's a dim child or dim-witted child. If you see a cartoon and the cartoon character, Doc McStuffins or Tom and Jerry or Mickey Mouse, whatever it is, Paw Patrol, my daughter likes Paw Patrol. If they have an idea, a light bulb may go off over their head, okay, to signify that they have an idea or a good idea, a bright idea, right? And so when we look at Europe in the Dark Ages, and Europe gets cast into the Dark Ages with the fall of the western portion of the Roman Empire in 476 AD, when the Vandals and the Visigoths come down and crush the western portion of the Roman Empire, it casts Europe into a period of darkness. This is ignorance. This is a period of ignorance, okay? Hundreds of years of ignorance, the Dark Ages. So all this deals with history and ties into ancient Africa. Look at pages 18 and 32 of Egypt on the Potomac by Tony Browder. Now, 50 of the 56 signers of the Declaration of Independence were Freemasons, and 13 of the 39 signers of the U.S. Constitution were Freemasons. 4 of the first 5 U.S. presidents were Freemasons, and there have been 14 Freemasons who have been U.S. presidents also. Here's a famous statue of Asar, Aset, and Heru, who the Greeks called Osiris, Isis, and Horus, and Aset was the virgin. Okay, who and you're going to find out that the Immaculate Conception story is thousands of years older than we thought, thousands of years before it resurfaced in the Helios Biblos, the Sun book, with the Virgin Mary and the baby Jesus. This may go outside the circumference of some people's awareness, but the letter J did not exist until 1630 AD. The letter J is derived from the letter I. The letter J is derived from the letter I. And when you look up the word Jesus in the dictionary and look at the etymology of the word Jesus, it takes you back to Yeshua, which is Hebrew. It takes you back to the Yeshua with the Y, because the letter J did not exist until 1630 AD. You can go to maybe like Britannica.com and look up the letter J, and it tells you the origins of the letter J. The letter J comes from is derived from the letter I. And in the historical origin of Christianity by Dr. Walter Williams in chapter 9. Chapter 9 deals with the whole history of the letter J. Okay. And I know Dr. Walter Williams, I've interviewed him a number of times also. This is from The Secrets of ISIS, the TV show that came on Saturday mornings on CBS. They had a Shazam and ISIS hour. And we didn't know that Isis was a copy, this white woman, Isis, was a copy of an African woman named Osset, who the Greeks called Isis. Okay, this is where this comes from. When you watch this show, and on Hulu, I think they still may have episodes of it. At the beginning of the show, they talk about how she gets her powers from ancient Egypt, and they start talking about the names of Neteru, Hathor, Heru, all different types of things like this. But they're showing us ancient Egypt, ancient Kemet, but we don't know that they are co-opting it. Okay, and we don't know it was an African woman, Isis, Osset. And so then from Osset with the baby Heru, born on December 25th of a virgin birth, you get the Black Madonna child that was worshipped all throughout Europe by Europeans. They still have statues of the Black Madonna child in Europe today, in Spain and Portugal and France and Russia, Czechoslovakia. They still have statues of the Black Madonna child. And then we get the white baby and Jesus from this also. Okay. All right. So these are just a few of the things that we deal with in the online course. Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Maafa, understanding the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school. It's a 10-week online course that I teach. We did with thousands of years of history and what led up to the transatlantic slave trade taking place. Lastly, I talked about Black Panther. The language spoken in the film Black Panther is Isikosa. And Isikosa is the Bantu language. Bantu languages are a group of 500 African languages, 500 African languages belonging to the Bantoid subgroup of the Benue Congo branch of the Niger Congo language family. The Bantu languages are spoken in a huge, large area, including most of Africa, from southern Cameroon eastward to Kenya and southward to the southernmost tip of the continent of Africa. 12 Bantu languages are spoken by more than 5 million people, including Rundi, Rwanda, Shona, Isikosa. Isikosa is the language spoken in the film Black Panther, also called Kosa, and Zulu or Amazulu. Now, Swahili or Kiswahili, K-I, Kiswahili, which is spoken by 5 million people as a mother tongue and some 30 million as a second language, is a Bantu lingua franca important in both commerce and literature. Okay. This information came from Britannica.com, Encyclopedia Britannica, but there are other sources dealing with Bantu languages that you can look at as well. And as I said, the word Wakanda is a very ancient word. Even though Wakanda is a fictitious place, Wakanda is a real word. We see it in Sioux Indian and Omaha Ponca languages, and it means possesses secret powers. It's also a Bantu word as well. Now, I know Kanda is Kikongo, and the word Kanda, K-A-N-D-A, means family in Kikongo. I'm trying to find the exact language, the exact Bantu language that Wakanda is from. Maybe Kikongo, I'm not sure. But I know Kanda is Kikongo as well. But I know it's a Bantu word. I'm just trying to find exactly which Bantu language. All right. So we deal with the film Black Panther in the online course as well, because Black Panther incorporates 11 different African cultures. It deals with African history, African spiritual systems. It's a deep movie. And the Wakanda salute comes straight out of ancient Kemet. It's the position of the Nsubitis or the pharaohs. It's always right over left. It's a position of power of the pharaohs when they're deceased. When you have the Nsubitis, when you have the mummies, the tombs. So, and we see this go all around the world as well. Okay, you see this right over left, go all around the world. All right. So we'll post a link here for the online course as well. And it's at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. And we do the classes live. The class starts Sunday, July 4th, 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're going to also enroll you in the Saturday class that's wrapping up. That meets on Saturdays, 12 noon. As soon as you register, you can start watching archive content that we have right now. Classes 1 through 7 of the Saturday class. You can start watching that. And you'll be ready for a Sunday class that starts up Sunday, July 4th, the 4th of July, because they lied and said that it was Independence Day. Well, maybe their Independence Day, but they were still dependent upon slaves also. So we have this information at AfricanHistoryNetwork.com as well. Let's see. If we go to, when you go to our website, scroll down and you'll see information for the radio show and information for the online course. Click register here. It takes you to the next page. Click on enroll. As soon as you enroll, you can start watching the content. Okay. And the class is regularly $130. It's also $80. And you still have access to the course even after the 10-week course is over with. Okay. Because remember, we do the classes live, but they're all archived. You can watch from around the world. You can use this with your children. I would say it's PG-13. So it's not overly vulgar, and we don't do a lot of cursing, things like that. But, we have to deal with some violence and unpleasant topics as well, dealing with slavery. Okay, and if you want to support the African History Network, $, the AHN Show through Cash App, $, the AHN Show through Cash App. That helps us keep doing the research, stay on the air, keep broadcasting our show 6 days a week, pay some of the bills as well. $, the AHN Show through Cash App. When it processes at our website, or when you click on the link, when it processes the payment for the course, you can do debit card or credit card. It processes it through PayPal. If you want to do it through Cash App, you can email me, ahnshow@africanhistorynetwork.com, ahnshow@africanhistorynetwork.com. And you can send it through Cash App if you like. Let me know it's for the course, so I know what it's for. And be sure to do $, the AHN Show through Cash App, $, the AHN Show through Cash App. And it says, it'll say Michael, and it'll show my picture there, because, I created this chart here because somebody set up some fake Cash App accounts, some fake African History Network Cash App accounts, and they've been stealing money from us. So I already reported them to Cash App. So you see the real one here is our tag is $, the AHN Show, SHOW, and it says Michael, shows my picture. These other ones are fake ones. Okay. And they were all set up after I set up mine as well. Okay. All right. Look, we have to get out of here. Remember, at the African History Network, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring African people throughout the diaspora and around the world. Because right now it's correct your own behavior. Be sure to listen to the African History Network show Monday through Friday, 11 p.m. to 12 midnight Eastern Standard Time. We broadcast here on our Facebook fan page, The African History Network, The African History Network, and my YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep, IMHOTEP, and we're on 9:10 a.m. the Superstation WFDF in Detroit. You can download the iHeartRadio app and listen to the show live. And then also, that's at 9:10 a.m. WFDF. Listen on iHeartRadio. And you can search for the African History Network show on iHeartRadio. They have about 300 of